We're recording.
So watch what you say.
Good. Yeah, we have a censor now. What do you call it? A government person that actually censors things on the internet. So we don't want to get censored.
That's weird.
It's like when in Jesus' day, you can't say that, Jesus. That's blasphemy, calling yourself the Son of God. So
Get stoned.
who do you think you are? We'll stick you up on a cross. That'll prove you're not. Hey, Anna. Oh, you don't have a sign today. What's going on there?
I didn't get the word to put a sign up today.
You didn't?
So here we are.
With no
tell
signs,
me,
signs following.
Tanya's connecting to audio and camera.
These
somewhere.
are all people that hit me up on the email. I'm so glad you guys found me in the email. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't think of it earlier.
We'll give it a minute if there's more people coming.
I think Tanya's where I am too.
Have you got a MAGA hat? Are you a Trump person? Look at Tina's face.
I don't have a Trump hat.
Anyone here got a Trump hat?
Oh Lord Jesus, no.
I like to stir the pot.
Ooh, help me,
you gotta let it all go, like the whole thing.
I know. Jesus ain't done with me yet. I'm still.
I know. And this is that, Tina. You gotta realize that in every moment it's that. If you miss the opportunity, it's gonna have to come around again in a different way. And each time it builds up resistance, and it's gonna bite you in the ass like harder next time. So
does it have to be an accessory?
Why not have an accessory? Jesus had the nails and the cross and all of that. That was his accessories.
That's true. That's true.
He's famous for that. He's like totally famous for it. He'd say it's not him, but like still, that's how people relate. Tanya, have you got a camera? We got a camera there for her somewhere. So anyway, so that's my screen filled up. So we'll just start. I don't know if there's another screen to the left or
in a second. Right. You're probably going to have to swipe.
Yeah, I'm looking for.
Hey, Tanya.
So Tina, just technical. How do I swipe?
Oh, you're on your laptop.
Oh, I'm on
so
a
you
laptop.
Can't swipe. You're on your laptop, so you have to. There's going to be an arrow on the side when it's time, and you'll be able to click.
Anyway, it does. I guess it doesn't really matter because if anyone has a question, they can write it to you, like you said, and you get the questions. All right, so that's cool.
The questions. I get the questions. I'm the gatekeeper. Sorry, I'm still working out my stuff.
I'm just waiting for Tina to catch on here.
I know. I'm the dunce. I'm gonna mute everybody.
No, we're all waiting for you to catch on now. You see how you can't escape your own mind? Like it's just
I know.
I take my mind with me wherever I go. It's like if I'm trying to heal something out there in the dream, out in the world, it's going to be a long slog, and it's like it's a big sledgehammer. But if I just do it here, it's like I'll just let that shit go. I'll just let it go, let it go, let it go, and then there's a little open space happens in the place where I let it go and refuse to fill it up with something else. From my own little coconut, something else happens, which occurs naturally, and we'll call that healing for a second. Something else happens, and my whole perspective on life changes just by a little bit, and all those little bits add up. Before you know it, 12 months, you finish the workbook, you don't even know who you are anymore. It's like, who was I 12 months ago? I was this arrogant kind of judgmental. What is it? That could be confused anyway. I think he needs a new symbol because like that's been like the Black Panthers from my recollection of things for like since the 60s,
Right.
Would you call that social appropriation or something? I don't know.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So there you go. But I think in general it's a symbol for right on, good one, or But anyhow,
Yeah, anyhow.
I know. All right, cool. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, and thanks for joining.
I'm gonna
And
mute, and you're gonna have to unmute yourself, okay?
who?
You.
Okay. Why we got a technical? Okay, is that it? Is we good? All right.
Yep, all good.
Okay. So I did have, there it is. So Tina and I, just little housekeeping. Tina and I sat this morning and just did a little edit on this book, which, how long do you think till we can send these to print? Like a week or something, or you're not ready yet?
About 2, 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks?
2, 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, so in 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to have about another 3,000 of these. I'm probably only going to take about a couple of hundred here for Australia because at the moment there's only me distributing them and they go kind of slowly, like one a week. But that's perfect. And majority of them will go to United States. I think Anna on the East Coast and Tina on the West Coast. So we're really, I know probably all you guys aren't from Europe, but if anyone's from Europe or whatever that would like to be a distributor for these and we can send you a box full, that's really cool. The nature of healing, all right, with this book, not reading it, but in putting your hand up to be a distributor for this book, is that you're going to have to dig into your own pocket for the postage unless you ask people to send you a stamped envelope or whatever, which is fine, whatever way. But I always have this attitude with these things that there's no lack, right? But there's no lack in God. So whatever I put my hand in my pocket to send this to somebody, it has a higher purpose. It has this whole higher frequency thing going on with it. And I'm serving the greater good. And that 50 cent for my stamp or whatever that goes on here, it does come back to you, right? It comes back in ways that you can't even imagine. So for many people, and I'm going to dig in here a bit, probably for everybody, right? Because we're all seem to be experiencing this idea of limitation, this idea of the physical world, the dream and everything. It's a really good way to push into an idea that I call poverty consciousness, where, oh, I don't have enough money to do that. I'd like to help, but I don't have any money, right? So a lot of people always present themselves with those sorts of ideas. I would do that if I had money, right? And money becomes the stumbling block for a lot of people, not just with this, but in just everyday life. Like in wanting to go to the theater or oh, I wish I could afford a theater ticket, right? And the principle involved in all of that is, well, I'm learning to let go and let God. I'm learning to trust the universe to supply me with whatever it is that I need, knowing that whatever it is that my heart is attracted to, if I'm going there for a higher reason, I want to go to the theater. I don't know why I really want to go because I've looked at the whole world and I've seen that it all ends in death. So what's the point in going to the theater? What's the point in doing anything? But yet my heart still really wants to go and see whatever, Pavarotti. So I'm just going to follow that heart song, that heart calling, right? But I'm going to let it be for a different purpose other than what I think it's for, because I never really know why I'm anywhere for the reason I think. Does that make sense, or did I say that wrong? I'm never anywhere for the reason I think, right? In the Course, Jesus says, I'm asking you to represent me wherever you go, right? And in representing me, he's not talking about himself as Jesus, although that occurs, but he's talking about the curriculum, right? Which, because mind training is the most important thing on the planet right now, healing and all of that, that's what you're being asked to represent. So if you go to the theater, I'm going there to represent that. I don't really know why I'm going. The voice in my head says, oh, I'd love to see Pavarotti, right? But I can't afford a ticket, right? Now, I'm going to go there to represent God, right? And I open up to the universe. I allow the universe to provide how I get the ticket, but I have to become more vigilant then for my own denial of what it is that the universe presents to me, because a ticket can come around by a very circuitous route, right? How I think the money should come to me for the ticket, or how the ticket should end up in my hot little hand altogether, no clue, right? And that's where you have to leave it. That's where you have to sort of sit with it in your mind. I don't know how I'm going to go. I'm just going to go, right? When Jesus was dictating the course to Helen, and when the course was finished, right? So Helen and Bill are sitting down and they're wondering who it is that's going to distribute this book throughout the world and this publication throughout the world, and how they're going to get it published. And I think they were sitting with, oh, I can never remember her
Judy
name.
Scutch.
Judy
Judy.
Scutch. They were sitting with Judy Scutch, and Judy said, Judy was very open to receiving higher guidance as well. And she said, oh, we have to make the commitment first, right? So you have to make the commitment first. So one of the things that, and I've told this story I don't actually know if I've recorded this story on a video, but the one about where I had to go and get a mobile phone, it's my prime poverty consciousness. I'll tell it anyway if you guys haven't heard it, right? But many, many years ago, when I was at the healing center, I'd left my job, I'd left my house, I'd left everything. I had to be there. I knew I had to be there. And I basically walked out of my old life. I burned all my photo albums. I gave away all my possessions, everything. I just divested myself as much as I could of everything possible, except for my car, because I had to get there. So I drove the hour and a half, whatever, and I'm at this place. But I didn't realize that I had this state of poverty consciousness about me, right? I'd always had money because I'd always had a job. I'd always been able to support myself in some way, even if I wasn't living the high life as, going to Pavarotti concerts and stuff. But because I was at a healing center, I was in a place where there was like 100 to 150 other people that also were examining their spirituality and looking at what it means to them to be on a spiritual quest and all of this kind of stuff. And pretty much none of us had any money. And we all sort of reconciled that to ourselves by telling ourselves that, oh, well, that's just the nature of the beast when you're on a spiritual journey. You don't have any money. You give everything away. You're not supposed to be rich, right? You're not supposed to have money. And one day my friend invited me for coffee, right? So coffee's like a few dollars for a cup of coffee, and I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford a cup of coffee. And this wasn't the first time. And she said to me, man, you've got a bad case of poverty consciousness. And I said, what do you mean by that? Hey, Simba. I said, what do you mean by poverty consciousness? And she explained to me, she said, you're always living in lack and attempting to justify your lack by using a bunch of spiritual hoop-de-doop that sort of made it reasonable why I didn't have any money to me, right? And she explained that everything I do is naturally for the greater good because I have a new purpose for doing everything. Going for a coffee with her and her friends, it wasn't about the coffee. It was about coming together and joining together. And they were all Course in Miracles people, as it happened. And the nature of the discussion in having that coffee would have automatically turned to healing, and like birds of a feather flock together. And you just notice that when you begin a spiritual path, let's say, all your old friends that are into sex, drugs, and rock and roll tend to fall away, and you find yourself alone in a certain sense for quite a period of time until you become, and that's by necessity, until you become more familiar and more masterful of the principles that the spiritual concepts you're using are about, right? So you kind of go into this recluse or into this solace within yourself, internally and around yourself, where you seem to be alone all the time, but you're not lonely. You're just alone, and you're integrating all this stuff, right? If you're doing the workbook of A Course in Miracles, that integration occurs a lot faster. I assure you. I tried doing it without it, and it took a long, long time to get anywhere. So anyway, I accepted from her that I had this state of poverty consciousness. I couldn't even afford a damn cup of coffee. And she said, you know what? And this is in the example of make the decision first, make the commitment first. She said, you know what? And I didn't have a mobile phone, right? So in those days, mobile phones were brand new. Not everybody had them, but I didn't have one. And I often liked the idea of a mobile phone. And she said, you know what? She said, we're going to get you out of this poverty consciousness. We're not going for coffee. She said, I'm going to take you down to the phone shop and we're going to put you on a plan for a phone, because we'd been talking about phones, where I had to pay $30 a month. In those days, I was on welfare, right? For the period that I was at the healing center, I was on welfare. $30 a month was like, what's that? $7 something a week. It's like, I just didn't have that. By the time I'd paid for my food and lodging at the healing center and everything else, I was broke. I was like skint broke. And it brought up all this fear in me, all this apprehension, all of this sort of energy. Okay. Which is what it was meant to do. It was meant to bring up that energy, meant to bring up that fear. And I saw that I had no way out because I didn't want to let her down. She was offering to help me, right? And I knew I had to accept the help as it came, right? Because you don't get salvation on your own terms. It happens in ways you can't even imagine, right? If you're trying to orchestrate your own healing, you're going to fail, right? So I just said yes to her. I said, yep, okay, let's do it. And we went down to the phone shop. And I tell you, I was so nervous. I'm like, everything in my head, how am I going to afford this? And I'm trying to preordain how things, maybe I can borrow money from somebody at the end of the month and pay this off, because I didn't want to lose my phone and still be accountable for the debt. And but I'd said my yes, right? I'd said my yes. Everything's going on in my head. I've got all this energy and anxiety coming up in me. And I realized I did have poverty consciousness. I was afraid to make some kind of commitment, right? It wasn't the commitment to the plan. It wasn't the commitment to poverty consciousness and overcoming poverty consciousness. It was the commitment to saying yes to God, right? It's always about the relationship I have with the divine. How that plays out in the earth, how that plays out in the particulars of my physical relationship can look like anything. It can look like a trip to the telephone shop, right? So we went to the telephone shop, and in those days, there wasn't many phones to choose from like today. I think I got a big Nokia, whatever it was. It was a big ass thing. Wouldn't fit real good in your pocket, you know. And it was like $28 a month or something, which in those days, we're talking 1997. That was a lot of money. That's like $100 today, probably a week, a month, you know, $25 a week. Anyway, and I signed the thing, right? Once I signed the contract, that was it. There was this sheer terror. It's like, holy crap, I've done it. What have I done? And it was like all the way home in the car, Josie's got this sort of smug grin on her face, knowing that some miracle's going to unfold now for me because I said yes to God. I knew I wasn't saying yes to the phone, right? It was yes to God. And I'm like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. So I went home with my new phone, set it all up and everything like that. And it got towards the end of the month. Actually, I don't think it was even that. It was before then, but there was a moment where I fell into prayer, right? There was a moment where I thought, I need to pray. I need something. I need to open my heart and my mind together and allow God in, allow the universe in to flow through me and affect my doings and affect all my relationships, so that something can happen here to heal my mind of this idea of lack and to show me that I'm always supported, right? So I fell into that prayer, and it was a good prayer. It was honest. I got up from that prayer and I thought, oh, I really meant that. And I mean, I've got up from prayers and thought, nah, that was rubbish. That was just lip service, you know, and you kind of know it. You just know when you could have done better and dug deeper. But anyway, I got up. It was a good prayer, solid prayer, and I just left it at that. 3 days later, I got a phone call from another brother, Druin, who had bought a property on the outskirts of town with a 5-acre fruit orchard with mixed trees. And he offered me 3 days a week work in his orchard. I didn't know he'd bought a property. I didn't know he had an orchard. I didn't know there was any kind of job going, but somehow he knew that I used to be a horticulturalist, like, or a gardener, you know, like many, many years ago. And the universe, and I immediately I said yes. And there was enough money there for to cover the phone bill. It was only a couple of hours, 3 days a week, but it was enough money to cover the phone bill and probably like an extra $20 a week on top so I could go for coffee and everything else like that, you know. So problem solved. And it showed me that moment of disparity between where I was dreading signing on the line and making the commitment, right, to where I witnessed that I was actually supported, right? I had no idea where that support was going to come from, right? That moment, something occurred between those 2 points in my mind, not out there, not out in the world. Nothing happens out in the world, right? Something occurred in my mind, a shift in consciousness where all of a sudden I said yes to the universe, and that then transitions and manifests as whatever it shows up as out in the world, and all I have to do is say yes, right? So I always tell people, and this isn't verbatim. If you've seen Yes Man, you'll know what I'm talking about here, but with Jim Carrey. There's 3 words. I'm going to hold up 3 fingers. There's 3 words that you can use in any situation in life: yes, wow, and thank you. Okay? Yes, wow, and thank you. If somebody asks you anything and you can't say yes, wow, and thank you, right? I know what's going on through Tina's head right now. If you can't say yes, wow, and thank you, then you need a 4th word, which is help. Okay? Help me, Lord. Because somewhere in the mind is this assumption that there's something being asked of me that I'm incapable of saying yes to, right? If everything is the divine will of God, if everything is the universe presenting me with my own best interests, why wouldn't I just say yes? No matter what it looks like, except for my own fears that come up, my own doubts that come up, my own apprehensions that come up to make me consider that perhaps there's something other than divine will. Maybe there's this thing called free will. Well, not really. All free will does is put me back in my learning, and it comes around again and again and again. It's not really free when you see it that way. It's just delay. Right? So yes, wow, and thank you. Everything is God saying, here, my child, take another step towards me. Take this little step towards me, and I'll show you who I am. I'll show you where I am in your life. Right? Now, that's going to require that you look at the fear. That's going to require that you countenance and face that fear, because this is a journey into fear, not away from it. Oh, hang on, I've got to pop up here. There we go, gone. All right. And it's important that you understand that. Everyone put their hand up if they understand that this is a journey into fear. Into, not away from. We're adventurers here. We're crusaders. We're marching towards our own ego death. Okay? Some of us are doing it happily, and some of us are wondering what the hell we've gotten ourselves into, and some of us are probably white knuckling at the walls and whatever, but we don't really have a choice. We're pioneers. Okay? Those of us sitting here in this Zoom meeting today, we're setting the tone for generations that will follow. We're making it easier by our work and by our willingness to represent the universal curriculum in our lives to the best of our ability. We are affecting the nature of everyone and everything around us to a degree that we may not even recognize. And we don't even need to recognize it. You know, it's like what's that effect? The butterfly effect. We have one little tiny act of forgiveness and tolerance and patience and love here. And then on the other side of the planet, somebody wakes up free from cancer or something. You never know how it, you know, like, it's amazing. It's just beautiful. So, yes, wow, and thank you. Do this. Everyone got that? 3 fingers. Yes, wow, and thank you. This is an important lesson. This is the whole crux of moving forward. Yes, wow, and thank you, or help. Okay. Now, yes is pretty obvious. Wow, because you're going to see the nature of the divine present in your own life. Okay. And when I say the divine, that tends to be loaded with images of angels and celestial things and all of that. But the divine is really the natural presence of your own true expression, right? Your own true self, your own true nature. Okay. And when you experience yourself in a moment without a defense, without any barriers, without any boundaries, without any defenses whatsoever, through saying yes, you'll be astonished. It's truly beautiful. You will feel within yourself, maybe just for a second, you'll feel within yourself that sense of innocence and that sense of self-love and that sense of believing in yourself that you lost when growing up from being a child to being an adult that had to be responsible for all the bullshit you've told you need to be responsible for, right? I call it all bullshit because the whole lot of it's bullshit. It doesn't matter what you're about. It's just stories, right? So wow is that. And thank you. Trying to hold up one finger here without being rude. Thank you, because you automatically fall into gratitude, right? When a lesson is learned, when you learn a lesson that's being presented again and again and again, and finally you crack the code and you learn it, let's say, the gratitude that you have is like, oh, thank God. Thank God. It's like, that's done in me. You know, and you'll know because the next time that person, situation, or event comes around that triggered you the last time, you'll know because you'll recognize within yourself you didn't have the same reaction. There's that same person at work that I see all the time. There's that same person in my family. There's that same whatever. I've been healed of something there. I'm not reacting to it the same way. It might be a tapering off, or it might be an instant dropping of whatever the defense was in the first place. Right? But you will see it because there's no point in you being about a spiritual discipline that you can't witness to the benefit of. Right? If you're not witnessing to the benefit of your efforts, then I would suggest that your honesty is lacking. All right, which is always the honesty in prayer, the integrity of prayer. And in the back of is it in the back, Tina, or in the blue? You've got the blue book, don't you? There's or is it the supplement, the green book? Anyway,
What are you
there's the
asking?
song.
Oh, the Song of Prayer. Oh, yeah, it's a
Is it
supplement.
and it talks about the levels of prayer, and
Yes.
the first level of prayer is bargaining.
Yeah. And on that, can I say something real quick about that? If you guys want a
Go
copy,
for it.
holler at me because
Yeah.
I can't put it out there on YouTube because they'll take the channel down. But if you call at me, I can send it to you privately.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think how come they'll take the channel down?
Because copyright. That one was not protected. I mean, that was not part
It
of the whole
still
copy.
that has copyright.
That was after the books were distributed, so that one has a copyright. So, or you
Holy
can
shit.
buy it. You can buy it from the
We're
FIP.
gonna have to defy that copyright. We're gonna have to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'll send it to you.
We defied the first copyright and got it taken off.
Well, but I mean, they won because they were distributing it prior to. This came after the
That's
distribution.
right. But do you know? Have you ever seen the movie or the documentary of the story of A Course in Miracles? Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So Judith Scutch, who was part and parcel of the whole thing of getting it printed,
yeah,
actually, no, I think it was actually Helen. I think it was Helen that dictated it, that channeled it. She
yeah.
said Jesus told her, yeah, it was Helen. Jesus told her directly, this course is not to be copywritten.
Exactly.
Right?
So the course is
It's
not. The supplemental material.
supplemental material. So Foundation for Inner Peace now includes the supplemental material in their publication. I know that for a
Nope,
fact.
nope. Only the pamphlet for psychotherapy or something like that. The Song of Prayer
That's
is
it. Yeah, it's the
you have to
psychotherapy.
buy it. You have to buy
Right.
it.
So no, the psychotherapy pamphlet, the little tiny green book, is now included in the big
In
blue
the
book.
In the FIP, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where the thing of prayer, it's also in that book.
I don't know,
It's
but
also in that,
if you
in
want
the
a
little
copy, I
green.
can give it to you. I have a PDF of it. So,
You know,
and
I used to have so many books, and people just like come in and out of my life, and they're like, "Hey man, can I have this book?" And I'm like, "Yep, sure." Now I have no books. I've got one of somebody gave me this the other day. It's really incredible. Have you read it? Anyway, yes, wow, and thank you. So 3 fingers, everybody. Yes, wow, and thank you. Right. Try to remember that throughout the day, because now that I'm making your attention drawn to it, it's going to occur. All right. Now that I'm making your attention drawn to the idea of yes, wow, and thank you, you can bet damn sure something's going to show up in your life to request something of you or to ask something of you. And you're going to remember these 3 fingers. And you're going to be like, I don't know about that. Maybe I'll just push Jesus aside for a second. I'll just get on with my own show or, whatever. But you get the results of your own thinking, and that's how you learn. So whatever you do, and God bless you either way. I'm not here to say what you should or shouldn't do. I'm just telling you this is how the universe works, Um, so anyway,
I think
poverty
Simba
consciousness.
had a question about something. I don't want it to go too far
Really?
without you.
Where are you,
Yeah.
Simba? Are you in a cupboard or something? You look like you're in a storeroom or.
No, I'm actually at my restaurant. I'm just like chilling in the
Cool.
back.
Very
But
nice.
damn, I forgot. You said
Trump.
it was like a while ago, so I kind of like lost track.
I
If it
know, I'm
comes back,
sorry, brother.
it's okay.
And
It's okay.
yeah.
You're
So
good.
you
You're
guys
good.
just I guess I do need to say this. The messages are coming straight to me so that it doesn't disrupt the meeting. So like Tanya, I guess you want to just hit like the emoji things to make your emoji because you just gave a heart, but I got it, so thank you. And if you have a question, just raise your hand if you have an actual question or something like that. Otherwise, a message is going to come straight to me just so that it doesn't disrupt the meeting. So.
I think there's a little hand emoji you can put in these things, isn't there?
No, there is just, yeah, there's a hand
I don't know how
emoji.
it works.
Raises your hand.
So, yes, wow, and thank you. So if I look at getting through the day, right, and I think it was Matthew, Mark, was it Mark? The evil of the day is sufficient thereof in the Bible. It's like every day is going to bring you something, right? In the Course, Jesus says every day should be devoted to miracles. Every day, right? There needs to be this conscious development. There needs to be a development of conscious awareness of what it is your purpose is throughout the day. Because I tell you what, as soon as you get off this Zoom meeting and walk out the door, you'll forget, right? It's like that scene in The Matrix where the Oracle gives Neo the cookies, and she said, by the time you finish eating that cookie, you'll forget about all this crap fate, all this fate crap, like. So, and it's true. The ego is the master of covering up everything. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of discipline and devotion to bring yourself into a truly present state with your purpose. The kids will scream, the phone will ring. Simple little everyday things will drag you out of the sense of self that you have when you realize that you've actually got a true purpose in the world, and drag you back into the world where you think you're dealing with problems, right? Or situations. That's all the ego does. It drags you back into the world, back into the world, back into the world, right? But the kingdom of heaven is within you. The self that you are looking for, the truth of yourself, is within you. And you'll find that through meditation. But to lessen the density of the veil that is between you, let's say in the conscious state, to the higher self, mind training is, I would say it's required, but it's not unheard of. And this is from my own experience. It's not unheard of to cross through that veil or to push through that veil without any mind training. Although it's completely terrifying if you're not prepared for what it is that you're the journey you're embarking upon. It's like in the Course, Jesus talks about it as you're learning to become revelation ready, right? The difference between this reality, the physical reality that you've grown accustomed to with your body, your fingers and toes, and looking at who you think you are in the mirror, and reality on the other side of the veil, actually as it is so different, right? It's nothing like this at all. That your mind, your conscious mind, literally can't grasp it because it has no references for it there. There's nothing in the conscious mind that can give you any kind of reference point for what's going on once you go beyond the veil, right? Once you have a full out-of-body experience, you're in no man's land. It is familiar to you somehow, but you still can't reconcile it with what's going on in the conscious level, and that's where you have to do the work, right? It's like when I crossed over and went into, let's say, a no body, no world experience, and I came back here, I understood completely, all of a sudden, what reality is. And I knew that this wasn't it. Right? This was just a dream, just an illusion, the Maya. Right? But I couldn't reconcile the two things because I'd had no mind training. I had no preparation. I had no references as, let's say, those incremental experiences of coming to learn again and again and again that I'm completely supported by yes, wow, and thank you to give it any relevance to me. It was like I'm here and it's there somewhere. Whereas the idea that I'm here and it's what I am, rather than it's over there, was the facility whereby through the mind training, I came to bridge that gap. Right? Now I know that I am that. I am that light. We all are that light. But at first it was like I had an experience of something somewhere else. And it's like, no. I had an experience of what I am. I remembered what I am. It wasn't somewhere else or something else. It's here and now. Right? So you become, and I love John Adidar Samaranch. Any of you guys heard of Adidar? So Adidar Samaranch was an enlightened guy. I don't even know if he's still kicking, but is he still alive? No, he passed a while ago, didn't he? 80 something, I think. But he didn't have a Course in Miracles. He had divine instruction through his own meditative efforts. And he was like, man, I've never been able to fault any of his stuff. There's a little bit of, and I'm not looking for the faults, but you know, when you read someone's stuff and it's like all of a sudden there's a thing and it sticks out and you go, hang on, that's not right. And it's like, but you keep reading anyway. But he had this thing where he used to talk about it as man becomes God man, right? Or so mind becomes Christ mind, or Buddha becomes Buddha mind. You sort of extend out past the idea of yourself as the body to encompass the nature of everything, right? And you see the wholeness of everything. You see the divinity of everything. Doesn't mean it still doesn't distract you and you still don't get miffed off about it and you still don't have your own karma and all of that sort of stuff. But you begin to have more and more the clarity and the vision that comes with these moments of change through saying yes, wow, and thank you, right? And being open and willing to look at what ideas are presented, okay? Because you're only ever looking at your own mind. It's only ever you're asking for these ideas to be presented to you, either from one of two purposes, denial or acceptance, right? So everything that comes to me is an opportunity for healing. Absolutely everything. It doesn't mean I'm healed already, right? In reality, there's nothing to heal, right? But I don't find myself in reality as such. I find myself in a world that seems to represent a parody of that, and I have to accept where I find my feet, all right? Otherwise, I enter into this kind of transcendental sense of myself, and I just become some spiritual asshole walking around, bypassing every opportunity that comes up, kidding myself that I'm some sort of person on a journey, right? The journey is horrific. The true journey is a journey into fear, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all, right? It's fun. Every confrontation you make tells you it's not fun. But on the other side of that confrontation in the healing, it's like, oh, that was so good. And you just want the next one. That part of it's fun. But the trepidation and everything that comes up, that energy that comes up every time you're presented with something that you resist, that's not fun at all. Right? So to try and transcend that with a concept, to try and tell yourself, oh, this is just a dream, this doesn't matter, that doesn't help, because it's just going to come back around again. And even Sigmund Freud said that emotions that are repressed come back doubly, twice as powerful next time to bite you in the ass. So you have to be honest. Yes, wow, and thank you. Can I truly say yes to this? Right? Is my yes an honest yes? Or am I just saying yes because I think I'm supposed to, because it's my spiritual path? Am I truly feeling my yes? Is it where I'm actually at, or am I not quite there yet? And you have to be honest about that. Trump hat, not Trump hat. It's like there should be nothing in the world that comes to you that you have to say no to, right? That doesn't mean that you just suddenly stop saying no to everything. And that's like where I was talking about that movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey, and he just got into this habit of saying yes to everything, even though in his heart there was a point where he didn't want to say yes to something, but he felt like he had to because he was told he had to, right? I'm not telling you that you have to say yes to everything, but I'm saying that you're entitled to miracles. Okay? So when stuff gets presented and you feel like you want to say no to it, or you have resistance to it, I'm entitled to miracles here. I know that I want to say yes, but I just don't feel that I can. I feel it's what's being asked of me is going to lead me into more of the same dark shit that I'm just trying to get out of, right? And yes, it is, because it's a journey into fear, right? So, and I'm definitely not telling you to put yourself into harm's way, all right? Because through prayer, if you're fearful of the approach to healing, if you're fearful of what you think may come and you've got too much resistance, it can be presented to you differently, right? And if it's presented to you differently in a way where you don't recognize the harbingers of doom, or you don't realize what you're getting into, quite often that's beneficial. It's like there's a more innocent sort of involvement with it there, where you don't have all the judgment. It's just like, all right, I'm going to let this come around again, and hopefully it'll be presented in a different way so I feel I can say yes to it. Okay. But you'll recognize it because it carries the same energetic signature, carries the same emotional signature. So let's say, if you were to quit your job because your boss was terrible, like on the first day of your job, you might think, this is great. I've got a job. I love everybody here. This is a great workplace. And after a while, familiarity breeds contempt. And you'd be like, I hate my boss. I hate my workers. I hate everybody around you because I hate myself. Right. And the idea of confronting that in the workplace, or the idea of healing that in the workplace, might necessitate the dropping of defenses that you've taken a long time building. And it might seem like, how can I ever let this go? This is like, I have this animosity and blah, 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 blah. And so the temptation is to want to quit your job and go find another job, right? And what's going to happen is, because you take your mind with you wherever you go, that same scenario is going to repeat in a different way. And you'll be like, why does this keep happening to me? Right? And you'll find, but if you're aware of it, right, when you're aware of it, you can catch it when it starts to show up again. Okay? It's the same lesson being presented in a different way. And I'm not saying run out and quit your job. Right? But learning to become consciously aware, learning to be vigilant for your own sense of inner peace, and recognize your triggers, right? Where you're triggered, where you're activated, where you become emotional about things. It's important, because you can't heal if you don't. You got to feel to heal, right? And you can deny it in your thoughts. You can kid yourself all you want and say, oh no, I wasn't upset by that. That doesn't matter. That's okay. They're not as bad as I thought they were, whatever. But you can't deny your emotions in the moment, right? And that's what we like to do as human beings. We like to push everything down and pretend it's okay. I'm all right. Doesn't worry me. I'll get over it and whatever. It's like, no, hang on. Let's back up there. You had a reaction. Be honest about that reaction. Oh, I did react. It doesn't matter how much. If your peace of mind was disturbed by even the tiniest little bit, that's the tip of an iceberg, because you're not healing the nature of a seemingly superficial relationship. You're healing your relationship with the universe. Right? This is a universal teaching. This is a universal position that you're taking here. It's not about someone in the workplace. It's not about my ex-partner or my kids or my whatever. Those are simply the catalysts that are presenting you the opportunity to recognize the lesson. And there's a whole world of people out there, right, that are running around saying, oh, everything's a lesson, but they have no clue how to learn it. Right? And you'll see it on Facebook. You'll see it on social media. Why is my life like this? Why does this keep happening? The universe keeps presenting me the same lesson again and again and again. Well, if you don't know what the lesson is you're being presented, you can't be expected to actually learn it. Right? The lesson is always going to be letting go of fear, or letting go in general. I'm letting go, I'm letting go, I'm letting go. I'm letting go and letting God, right? Which is the universal power. If I can do it, you can do it. That's my sign off. That's my caveat. If I can do it, you can do it. You know, and I wobble my head a bit. Make it all okay. Look at Anna. She knows what I mean by that. It's like, no, we're all doing it together. Right? We're all in this together. So, yes, wow, and thank you. Be honest in prayer. Be honest in serving yourself with regards to what you react to in the world, because your reactions are the presentation of the lesson, right? Or the opportunity, if you want to look at it as an opportunity. Everything's either a blessing or a lesson, right? If you don't feel blessed by the relationships that you're in, if you have animosity or defenses or anything like that, then you need to recognize that it's a lesson. Because love is universal and unconditional, and there should be nothing and no one and nowhere in your life where you don't feel the presence of your own divinity around you and within you and all of that sort of thing. Right? It's omnipresent. Just because I say that doesn't mean that you're going to feel that. Right? We've all got our work to do, including me. I mean, every day something. My coffee wasn't right over the road this morning when I went for coffee. Something as simple as that, you know, this coffee's too bitter compared to another coffee. There's no such thing as coffee. There's just me perpetuating an idea of comparative association in my own mind that keeps me in the dream. And it's like, all right, let me let go of that. That coffee was perfectly bad coffee. It was perfect. It was perfectly shit. So everything's always perfect. That's what you're learning. Everything is always perfect. Now, the other thing with that is make hay whilst the sun shines. Don't dilly-dally, right? Because you turn on the television and you look out there and you see volcanoes erupting in Sicily. You see trains running over. Like I turned on the TV this morning, my dad turned on the television, and a father and a daughter in Melbourne or somewhere were killed on like the pram rolled off onto the track, you know, and it's like, man, you got to be aware of where you are, where you find yourself, right? The nature of the beast here is death. The nature of the beast here is, like Buddha said, life is suffering, right? The nature of life is suffering. And the funny thing is, within our idea of that, we try to carve out for ourselves a little bit of paradise where if I can just keep things the same for long enough, I'll have a period where I don't suffer. If I just have enough cushions and enough incense and enough all this sort of stuff, I'll have a comfy little nest here. And all you're doing is really digging a grave, right? It's a comfort zone. Don't get into the habit of establishing comfort zones. Once you get used to being out of your comfort zone, once that becomes the norm where you don't have a comfort zone, you'll actually begin to feel better about it, right? You've got to realize that comfort zones only served your old idea of yourself, right? They're no longer useful moving forward. And you may have some, and I'm not saying don't have a quiet place for yourself, but you may have some resistance to letting go of recognized comfort zones like friends, and habits and things like that, all of that, anything that brings you comfort in the world. You know, it's like Jesus says the foxes have their holes and the birds have their nests, but the Son of Man has no place to rest his head, right? That's true for me. My life is constant upheaval, and I'm used to it, and I'm accepting of it, and I know that that's going to be the case until day dot, and I'm not worried about it anymore. But at one time in my life, I could tell you that that would have pissed me off a lot. We've been evicted from our, you know, when you're young and you get evicted from your house because you have too many parties, or you're too loud, whatever. We got evicted again. What the hell is wrong with these people? Right? It's funny. It's funny. You know, you just get a nice place, you get a good group of friends, and then boom. It's like, oh man, you try to find yourself in sort of some association in the world. All of a sudden, you're trying to concretize something that exists in a fabric of constant change. Right? The world is always in a flux of constant change. Right? But because we are divine beings of an eternal nature, of a changeless nature, intrinsically, we're looking for that changelessness. And we try to manifest for ourselves on earth a little nest, a little changeless, comfortable place where everything feels how we somehow in the back of our minds recognize that this is good for us. Right? Because we don't want the constant change. We don't want the constant turmoil and the upheaval and the being shoved about. And it's like somewhere, right, we know that we're entitled to perfect peace. And so we do our best to build a nest. We do our best to build this life that seems to reflect that on earth, missing the whole point, however, of the nature of life on earth, because nobody gives you a little book that tells you anything when you get here, missing the whole point that the nature of life on earth is constant change, right? So to fall into an alignment with your true nature on earth requires that you go with the flow here. All right. I need to go with the flow. I need to open myself to the idea of constant change, whatever that looks like. Yes, wow, and thank you. Okay. And whatever's not helpful in your willingness to do that, whatever's not helpful that you've structured for yourself in your life, it will automatically fall away. And you can either bemoan the falling away and the loss of it, or you can be grateful because you're realizing that a new door is actually being presented to you. Right? There's always a choice. How do I want to feel about this? Well, I feel turned out and upset and ungrateful about it. It's like, well, there's an opportunity as well. My favorite coffee shop shut down and now I can't get my coffee. What the hell's going on in this world? Where am I ever going to get such good coffee again? So yes, wow, and thank you. And it's easy to forget that. It's easy to think that because you've read a whole spiritual book, or perhaps if you're like me, many spiritual books, that you're entitled to some kind of credibility. And it's like, that's kind of laughable. There's no credibility on earth. Your only validation here on earth is from God, and that only occurs through your own illumination, your own enlightenment. Everything else here is open to interpretation. It's relative. Love in the world is relative. It's not fact. Right? But love exists within you, which is fact, and that's what you're looking for. When you find it within yourself, you will cease to participate automatically. It just starts to fall away. When you find it within yourself, you'll cease to participate in that often subliminal search for love and meaning out there in the world. It doesn't mean that people, situations, and things won't come to you, but you won't have any angst about it or any energy about it. How come nobody loves me? What's wrong with me? All of that sort of thing. And why don't I have love in my life? And all of these sort of things. It's like, because you're in a process. Once you accept the process, all of that whinging and complaining and wondering about stuff just falls away. It's like, oh, hang on a minute, I'm in a process. I'm learning to love myself. I've had 10,000 lifetimes of being some kind of self-righteous, I'm entitled to love. You know, why can't you just behave the way I expect you? And why doesn't my, all of that This lifetime, we're committing to something else. This lifetime, I'm living for me. I'm not going to give my power away. I'm not going to externalize myself to a world that is only going to reflect back to me death and suffering and pain. Right? And that's going to be requiring an element of faith. I mean, don't take it from me. You guys are all in this. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, we're just here having this meeting as a kind of like a support group because I know how hard this can get. If I didn't have all those guys at the healing center to constantly offer me their shoulder to cry on, their hugs to make me warm inside, and all of that beautiful loving, even their teachings, all of that, if I didn't have that, I don't know where I'd be today, because I looking back, I realized how invaluable that was as a nurturing phase of my own transformation. Right? And you have to allow yourself to have that, you know. Hugs are beautiful. You ever had someone that gives you like the side hug or the pat on the back hug, and it's like, man, it's like I'm talking about a real hug where you just want to absorb the other person into your body and take all their pain and suffering and take everything from them. There's a total compassionate and empathetic sort of just, here, come to me, you know, and there's this joining there, not in the physical, but mentally. It's like there's an awareness of what you're doing. It's like two travelers who've been alone in the dark for so long, finally finding each other in this desolate place and coming together. And it's like, oh, thank you. Thank you for being on my path, on my journey. And it's beautiful, you know, to have somebody who's consciously aware of what you're going through without even having to say a word. That's everything. That's everything. You can just look at that person and be like, you need a hug. And it's the hug you give to yourself. It's the extension of your own love on earth. It costs nothing, you know. There's no side hugs. There's no backslapping. We didn't just win a football game. It's an embrace. It's a divine embrace, and you just allow it to be that. Yes, wow, and thank you. Yes, wow, and thank you. If there's anything that you come away from this with, let it be those 3 words, or help if you can't say that. It's important. I really only have one teaching, you know, like resist not evil. It's the same thing Jesus taught. Resist not evil. Evil is an Aramaic word, and it's an archery term, and it means something like, oh, I missed the target, or I didn't get it right, something like that. It's not devils and bad stuff, and it's, you know, that's what we make of it, misinterpreted. But resist not evil. Don't resist what it is that's presented to you that you have an aversion to. Don't resist it. Admit to it, because then you can offer it up in prayer. Then you can offload it through the Holy Spirit, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to own this totally. I'm going to take this on board. I'm going to totally own it. I see that I have resistance. I see that I've got all this energy tied up, right? Energy that could be used for love. I've got all this energy tied up in defending myself against a whole bunch of shit that I made up myself in a world where I've told myself I'm threatened and I'm vulnerable and I'm everything, rather than walking in faith. Right? I think it's lesson, hang on, I've got it here. In this handy little publication, my fingers are a bit fat and these pages a little, but hang on. God is the strength in which I trust. Lesson 47. Right? Lesson 48, there is nothing to fear. I am sustained by the love of God. Lesson 50. Lesson 49, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Right? And you're learning to listen to that voice. You're learning to listen to the voice for reason. You're learning to listen to the voice that speaks for your higher good. Not the voice of doubt, not the voice of fear. Simba's going into the restaurant. He's going to cook us all lunch. We're going to have a big banquet table there. Yes, Wayland.
I think
Yep.
he has a question too. His hand's been
Tanya's
up for a
in.
while.
Tanya's in. She wants lunch at Simba. Look at that. That looks a nice restaurant.
It is
Show us
nice.
around there, Simba. Oh, yeah. We're there.
Ooh.
That's us.
Um,
I'm
Wait, can you hear
suddenly
me?
feeling divine guidance to go to Simba's restaurant and
Yes, please. I'll get you right. I'll get you right.
Ooh, I like being right.
So I had two questions.
yep, let's
Um,
have it.
my first one is I asked you this on a YouTube video before too. Um, so meditation is not necessary to drop the veil, or because I'm a little confused about that.
Okay, so is that your first question?
Yeah, that's my first question.
All right. So meditation, let me put it this way. I know people who have had divine experiences without meditating, right? It just occurs naturally. It occurs, they suddenly make a decision in their mind. They'll be washing the dishes or they'll be dancing or anything. And all of a sudden, boom, and they may never have heard of meditation. There's not really any kind of blueprint for enlightenment. It'll happen to you in your own way and in the way that you've already orchestrated for it to happen, right? You're going to have all the doubt about that because everything in your association is symbolic of doubt, which is why you're going to have to learn to live in faith, right? However, meditation, seen rightly, is a combination of inner inquiry. What am I? Where am I? Who am I? Right? And if you're a fan of Ramana Maharshi, that was pretty much his whole teaching. Ask who is it that is asking who I am, right? And try to find within yourself the origin of that questioner, the person asking who am I, right? You won't find anyone there, right? But in the place where you can't find anyone there, you're pushing right up against the veil of consciousness. You allow your mind to go to such an extreme with that inquiry that you sit up against the nature of the veil or the limitation of consciousness in your own mind, right? Now, that sitting against the veil, and I have to call it sitting, I don't know another way really to talk about it, or that mental posturing up against the veil is the same thing in the Bible when Jesus says, knock and the door shall be opened, right? Or be still and know that I am God. It's the same thing. You're sitting there, you can't go any further in your inquiry because you can't find who it is that's asking the question, right? Automatically, something occurs when you master how to stay in that place, right? And that occurs through practicing meditation, generally. I would say 99% of the time that occurs through practicing meditation. And I don't have any statistics, but I'm just spitballing here, right? There's always going to be those rare individuals that just have a profound experience through no apparent seemingly effort, right? I was one of those. I was a dark night of the soul person. I fell to pieces. I couldn't take it anymore. I was suicidal. I didn't want my life to go on if I couldn't figure out what the point of my life was, what the meaning of my life was. And like the story of that is in my experiences video. So I won't go into it now because it's kind of long, but 3 days later, illumination. And I didn't meditate. That was through prayer. All right. My heart opened. I reached the dark night of my soul. My heart opened through prayer and something else occurred, right? There's always the something else. Right? It's always that thing that you can't define that exists within you of the divine, which is the clincher, that where you go from consciousness to the other side of consciousness. And Eastern traditions call that the void, or in the Course it calls it the veil, or into the nothingness, or into no mind if you're into Buddhism. That can be kind of scary if you're not prepared. Right? A lot of people experience that as being sucked out of their mind, as being sucked out of consciousness, as if they're losing their mind, right? In actual fact, the opposite is occurring, right? if you think of it like a portal, right? There's a place, you're going back through the portal you came from. It's very hard to talk about this because you're talking about a mental action that doesn't have a lot of history to it as far as references go. So all of these Zoom meetings are going to be in 100 years, people are going to look back and go, oh, we just take the blue pill now. Like the Matrix, but for now we've got all this hard work to do. But meditation, yes, definitely important. I mean, what else are you going to do with your time anyway? You're going to sit and think about your restaurant or whatever. You may as well use your time constructively, all right?
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Meditation and prayer both work together. So if you're looking for a way out of getting out of meditation by that question, I'm sorry, I wouldn't
No,
reckon.
I wasn't. No,
Oh, I'm
because
kidding.
I don't know why I brought it up because you said something and then I was like, oh, so does that mean meditation is like a way, but then the goal is like something else? So like meditation is the preparation to say. Does that make sense?
Meditation is more like, to me, it's more like a cooperation. It's more like cooperating. If you imagine that you're a little child and you've fallen down a well and you have to be rescued, right? So you're a little child and you've fallen into the third dimension somehow and you have to now be rescued, right? So Jesus has like come down on a rope and he's gone, oh, I see where you're at. Right? I see where you're at. There's a whole bunch of you guys down here. I can't take you all with me, but I can organize for a rescue, right? So all of a sudden, along comes a little book that tells you how to get yourself out of the well, right? You have to cooperate, and you like the whole thing of salvation is it's a collaborative effort. You're cooperating with everyone on this video. You're cooperating through prayer with beings of a celestial nature. You're not alone in this. Okay. So your idea of do I need to meditate? Don't I need to meditate? Well, listen within yourself. Some people meditate ritualistically and religiously every day. And it's just like I had a friend who was a Buddhist and 5 hours a day he would meditate. And I used to work in his garden for him. And I said to him one day, I said, how come you spend 5 hours every day in meditation? He goes, so I can have a better life in my next incarnation, which is a typical Buddhist point of view, philosophy, right? And I said to him, man, you're always meditating. How do you know that if you weren't meditating, this wouldn't be the life you were meditating for in your last life? This isn't the better life. And he got really angry and kicked me out. And he wouldn't let me come and garden anymore. Like I totally destroyed his idea of what meditation was. And I felt okay about that. I mean, I was just being honest. And but meditation, like prayer, should be something that you feel natural with. You should feel called to prayer. You should feel called to meditation. It's like, man, I really feel like I need to commune with the universe. It's if you do it ritualistically, right? So a lot of like Muslims, and I'm not anti-Muslim or anti-anything, but Muslims and a lot of Christians and whatever and Jews, they're called to prayer so many times a day, whatever. It becomes a ritual, right? But familiarity breeds contempt, right? If you went to your father, let's say your earthly father, your dad or whatever, and you had a problem, if you went every single day and said exactly the same thing, your dad's going to look at you and go, what's wrong with my kid? Why does my kids keep saying this same shit to me every day? It's like, just come to me when you need it. Like you don't have to back it up. I'm not judging you. There's no kind of like shortfall in anything here. Just be yourself. So pray when you feel you need to pray. And you'll know, sometimes when you need to pray. You just got to like, oh man, I got so much shit going on. I need to pray about this, right? Meditate when you feel like you need to meditate. There was a point in my life where I was beginning, well, maybe not beginning, but I was trying to get back in touch with how to meditate. I was in my early 20s and I just knew, right, where I was living was on a resort island. I was a gardener there. And in the staff quarters, it was noisy. There was always parties, and because night workers and day workers, I had no peaceful place to meditate. And I knew I had to go and find myself a place in the bush to go and meditate. And that was the very first time that I heard the voice, the silent voice, speak to me. And I think that's in my experiences too, Tina. Yeah. So that might be a good one for you to watch. But every time you meditate doesn't always go along with the idea that if I meditate, I'm going to have an experience. Okay. I tried a lot of different meditations before I finally found one that not so much gave me an experience, a non-temporal experience, but gave me a sense of deepest peace and all of that sort of stuff that allowed me to come back to my center, let's say, or back to focus. So, I mean, I did many years ago when I just left home. I was 17 or 18 or whatever, and living with my girlfriend in a unit, and just down the road, like about half a kilometer down the road, was this house owned by the Brahma Kumari, which is a sect of Hinduism. And the Brahma Kumari teach open-eyed meditation. They light a candle and everybody sits around in a dark room and you focus on the candle and keep your mind completely focused on that, right? Now, I didn't have a non-physical experience through that, but it did teach me about focus, and I saw how terrible I was at keeping my mind focused on the candle, right? It was everywhere. It used to go off to the left and off to the right and think about tomorrow and think about yesterday and is this the right way I'm supposed to be doing it? And is that, and everybody else, I look around the room, everybody else was sitting there with their eyes open and they were totally focused. Right. And I saw in myself, man, I'm no good at this. Right. But I stayed there for 3 months. I went I think once or twice a week. I went for 3 months. And by the end of the 3 months, I kind of accepted within myself that I'd done as much in that meditation as far as I could go. Right. And then circumstances in my life changed. I moved to a different area and a different kind of thing was presented to me. Right. Now, it'll be the same with you. It'll be the same with everybody. You're always meeting people. You're always being presented with situations and opportunities. And if you say yes to them, you're going to learn new things, right? It doesn't go hand in hand that those new things are going to bring about the result of experiencing your true divine self. But if you realize that everything is part of that, right, then you'll be more open to being open about whatever's going to be presented. Does that make sense? It's like keep an open mind with everything. Just because you've got a meditation hall just down the road or something like that, that doesn't mean that's necessarily going to be how you wake up, right? I can tell you that you're already awake in the dream, right? What you're looking for is an experience of awakening from the dream. Right? Once you're aware this is a dream, once you're aware that you're the master of your own destiny and that you're getting the results of your own thinking, you are awake technically, right? But it's a process. It's called an awakening, right? It's an awakening process. So we are awakelings, if you like. We're babies in a very big picture, all of us, me included. I may have had an experience or two that you haven't had, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have those experiences. But you'll have them in your own way when it's your own time and when you're willing and ready for them, right? I think for me, I wasn't ready for what happened to me. I was far from ready. I didn't even know what was about to happen. I just knew I couldn't go on. I just fell to pieces in my living room, out there in the bush, and I had no idea I was about to leave my body. If you had told me that I was about to leave my body, I probably would have thought you were crazy, But right up until the point where, right, you're looking for God. That's what you're looking for. You'll see the presence of God nurturing you and around you, and eventually, through your faith, you'll have so many examples of being supported in your faith that it's going to drive you crazy not to know, right? I want to experience this. I want to experience God. I can see the presence of God in my life. I can see all this stuff going on around me. I can see my mind changing. I can see things healing and all this sort of stuff going on. It's like, but that's not enough, right? Because the true self in you craves to be reunited with the Father, right? Your longing, and I call it longing, and your longing for God runs so deep that you can't stop it, right? It doesn't matter how much you think it might be in the future. It doesn't matter how much you might want to consider different meditations or prayers or whatever. Your awakening is going to happen because it did. The more you focus on it, the more you collaborate with it and cooperate with it, makes the passage of your process a lot smoother, right? I don't recommend to anyone to take the path of dark night of the soul, which is basically drawing a circle in the sand and making an ultimatum. It's God or nothing. Right? I don't recommend that way. That was my way, and even though I didn't realize what was actually happening at the time, I was just losing my mind and falling to pieces. Even though I didn't recognize what process I was in, not consciously I knew I was on some kind of journey. I've been on it ever since I was a little boy. You know, when I was a little boy, this is a funny story, right? So when I was a little boy, my mother, I was about 8, maybe 10 years old. I was holding my mother's hand and we were walking across a busy road in Brisbane, a big city. And when we got to the other side of the road onto the footpath, there was this, I think he was a Sikh, but an Indian man. And he came over to me and he stopped me and my mother in the middle of the busy street. And he poked me in my head like that. And he said, "This is going to be your last incarnation." Oh, no, he said, "This is going to be your last life." And then he just walked away. It's like, it's like what a random thing to happen, and there's been this mark on my head ever since, it's like, and I don't know that it was from that moment. I always thought this was a birthmark. And my daughter was going through old photo albums of our family recently, and she looked at pictures of me when I was much younger than that. She said, "Dad, you didn't have a birthmark then." Even pictures of I'm a baby, I didn't have a birthmark. So I don't know. You tell me, right? It can look like anything. It can look like anything. Some crazy
So,
Indian guy in the street just poke you in the head, or you know, I don't know.
so, sorry, I don't mean to like interrupt.
No, you're not interrupting.
So you said that you have to be open to being open, right?
Right.
So then how do you become open to being more open?
Are you willing to be open to be open?
Yes, I'm
There
willing
you go.
it.
You just did it. There, right.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh,
It's all
that
about
was
your willingness. Your willingness to be
okay, fair
open.
enough.
All right. You'll see whether you were honest about that the next time something gets asked of you and you get to say yes, wow, and thank you to being open. Right. So I'll tell you, since we're talking about meditation, I'll tell you another one that I think you would enjoy. I enjoyed it. It's a meditation of the heart. Probably in the 2 years, a year or two leading up to when I was living in the mountains, leading up to my awakening, down the road from me, about like I lived in an area where I left the area I was living because it was drugs, alcohol, nightclubs, just really unhealthy kind of energy to me at that time. And I moved to a place in northern New South Wales, which is around Nimbin, Byron Bay, and everything. Very spiritual sort of area, as spiritual people go. Um, there was a lot of people from Osho discipline, sannyasins. There was a lot of people. There was a huge Hare Krishna community just down the road, the biggest one in Australia, and lots of Christians. Like it was a hub, right? A real hub. One of the things I really used to enjoy was going to the Haridam, to the Hare Krishna community, and doing their meditation. It's a dancing, I guess you'd call it dancing, but it's an energetic, um, vibrant. It's beautiful. It's just really, really beautiful participation, and you enter in without any kind of um, knowing what you're really getting from as a Western guy. Anyway, I had no clue what I was getting involved in. I just went along. And I I hate to say it, but I think I actually started going along because they offer free lunch on a Sunday. which is delicious. It's vegetarian. But I got to know some of the people there, and they're like, come into the temple and do the prayer with us, do the meditation with us. And at first I had a bit of resistance. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if that's really my thing, because being open in public was something that I wasn't really comfortable about. But I did it anyway. And I think after the first time I went there, I was drawn to it, like incredibly drawn to it. I just felt so released and so relieved, and like, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And I loved it. It was just that the energy of it was so in the heart, right? It was just so in the heart. And I think I've probably experienced a couple of other different methods of meditation since then, but you'll find what works for you, and everything works for you at a certain stage. Right? You'll find you grow out of some things, and I don't mean grow out as in you become more mature or whatever, but you transition. You go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and you are led along this kind of journey where in every moment you're finding yourself, right? Maybe not experientially as the illumination of the mind, but in every moment you're witnessing to yourself in that moment. Right. So some people say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Well, that's true, but you also want to reach the destination as well. So having a conscious realization of why you're even participating in the journey as an overall viewpoint, right, is important. Right. I'm participating in this whole journey because I'm pursuing the enlightenment of my mind. I'm pursuing the realization of truth within me. What that looks like along the way, along the journey, is a series of ongoing self-realizations about your nature and the opportunity for healing whatever it is in that nature that needs to be healed. Okay, it's a journey into fear. And I've had people say to me, "Oh, I don't like this journey. It's not joyous. It's not happy." It's totally joyous and happy. Liberating oneself from fear is like, you got to confront that fear, but I mean, to be liberated from it is like, oh, thank God, I've actually found something true. I've actually found something that's true, and it's not just fluff. It's not just icing on a cake. It requires hard work. It requires radical honesty. It requires a deep willingness to surrender moment to moment to the divine nature of myself. But it's true. And you know that it's true because you witness to it by the changes in your relationships and your situations. And if you're not seeing those changes, then you're not being honest. Right? And it's like, never underestimate the power of mind in denial, because you've been a liar and the son of a liar since the beginning. Right? And you've got to know that about yourself. I will deceive myself at every tick of the clock. I'll kid myself about everything, because the nature of my mind in time and space is denial. It's not just denying things within that framework of my nature. It's the general nature of the beast, right? It's the whole thing. I'm here having an experience of denial of God. That's alpha and omega, or everything in between. The good stuff and the bad stuff, the duality and the yin yang of it, all of it. Right? You've got to look at that honestly. It's like, what I think love is nothing more than, what was it, Tina? A chemical reaction in the mind based on stimuli. It's like, that's not love. Love is unconditional. Right? Love is unconditional. If I have conditional love, more love for one person than another person, or one situation than another, that's not love, and it never was. It's murder. It's death. Right? And that may be hard to swallow. You might want to go, oh, you can't be serious. No, it feels so good. It's got to be love. It's like, man, if you glimpse what love is ever so briefly, like the true nature of eternal love, you will know that everything in this world is an absolute sham, an absolute lie, an absolute covering over something that there are no words to express. So it's like, that's the good news and the bad news. And somewhere in there, there's the individual self, the individual I trying to work it all out. Stop trying to work it out. Just let go. Just go with it. Yes, wow, and thank you. Yes, wow, and thank you. And see where that leads. Be prepared to be wrong. Be prepared to make mistakes. Be prepared to fuck everything up. You know, what do you care about being right in a world that has no reality? Who cares? Why do you do that to yourself? You know, that's like me. Letting go, letting go. All right, close your eyes
Wait,
for a
can we talk? Oh, my bad,
Oh,
my bad.
Timber, you're walking. Well done.
Um,
Yep,
so
go for it.
sometimes when you like say something and it could just be like the most random thing, it'll like it feels like it physically sticks in my head, and then
Right,
I get this like overwhelming feeling, and it kind of surges through my body, and then it just goes away. And
right,
then I get goosebumps too. I don't know. It's
right.
like, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Truth recognizes its own. Don't be surprised if you have all sorts of things goes on.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I get those
Just
goosebumps too sometimes. Like it's
right,
like
good.
emotional like words like or like thoughts
Yeah,
like that are tied to like feelings that I have, but it's
right,
all like it's spiritual. I call it like spiritual chills. I think it's just like it's like a wave across my body sometimes.
right,
It's
good.
yeah, it's
So,
good.
so here's the thing. Try and work with those waves. Ready? This is just a little aside. With your breath, when you feel those waves, and you can do this, right? So, like that. My mind opens like instantaneously, right? I don't know how to tell you how it opens. It just does. It used to take me a long time in meditation, Simba. This is another thing. It used to take me a long time to have any kind of opening happen, right? Now, when I breathe, if I think about it, or even if I don't think about it, sometimes when I'm breathing, those goosebumps and that it's like every cell in my body tingles, every single cell, right? I can control that. I can send it to any part of my body if I have a bruise or a bump or a cut or whatever, right? It's all associated with an idea of healing. I can even think about Vegemite on toast and it'll bring on those goosebumps. I don't have to be thinking about the Holy Spirit. I can think of anything, right? It's the place where my purpose and the idea of what it is I'm involved in kicks in. It's like, hang on, I want to do that because and I just have an experience of it, right? Because you're not separate from your higher mind. You're not separate from the Holy Spirit. It's what you are. You are the spirit of wholeness. You're not a Michael having an experience of things tingling. You're not a Simba having these goosebumps, right? That's just where you experience a little element of your natural state coming through into consciousness, right? Seen rightly, everything is a miracle impulse, right? Everything is an impulse from the divine through you and out there into the world, into the universe, into the dream, right? The ego always tries to corrupt that miracle impulse and say, oh, I feel horny or I feel hungry or I feel whatever. It's like, well, let's not define that for a second. Let's just feel that impulse in its purity and not give it a meaning, right? And see what it is that I think it's really for, right? And use it to be guided. And you'll find something else occurs, right? Because you're letting go, you're refusing to attribute a physical attribute to a non-physical experience, right? Your awakening is calling to you all the time. Every second of the day it goes on. There is not a moment in the day where God's voice ceases to call on your forgiveness. Not a single instant, right? Not that you need forgiveness, but forgiveness is a tool for opening the mind. Okay. And you can feel that. It's like, oh, I'm feeling goosebumps. I'm feeling these pins and needles. I'm feeling all these sorts of things. Of course, right? Don't define it. Don't judge it. Just let it be there. Breathe and just allow that to be, you know, like people talk about auras and whatever, and these earth bodies, pain bodies, and all of this sort of stuff. And I don't really ascribe to that. I think it's hard enough job just to deal with this physical shell that I've got some days, right? So keep it simple. You have to breathe anyway. So a little bit of conscious effort in your breathing sometimes, especially when you're meditating. It brings forth some incredible results, right? It's beautiful. You have to have those experiences, right? So, Simba, do you have another question before we do this?
Thank you.
Okay. Just checking. Anyone else?
Well,
Colin? All good? All right, everyone, just for a second, just close your eyes, sit comfortably. Take a few deep breaths. Now, I want you to imagine, we're going to use a little creative visualization. I want you to imagine that in the top of your head, there's like a little blowhole, like a dolphin. You know, the air goes out of the top of a dolphin's head. All right. Just try to imagine that you had a blowhole in the top of your head. Breathe in through your nose and out through the top of your head. I want you to focus on the top of your head. I want you to focus with all of your concentration on the top of your head, and I want you to feel that air going out. And within a few breaths, you should feel this kind of little tingling or this little kind of breeze or little kind of energy around the top of your head. Can you feel it? Take a few deep breaths. Keep it. Okay, Simba, Tonya, yep. You should feel that. Anyone not feeling it? All right, focus, Noodle. Keep your eyes closed. Focus all your attention on the top of your head. Think up, feel up, breathe up. Eyes closed. You may have to do 2 or 3 deep breaths and just focus. With practice, you'll feel it. Okay, you'll feel it. It's just a funny little feeling. It feels like there's air coming out of the top of your head. All right. Now, here's the other one. At the tip of your spine. Okay, even in your bum. Right. You can feel it in your bum. Breathe in. This may take more effort because most people don't breathe very deeply. They breathe shallow. When you breathe, breathe like an opera singer breathes. When an opera singer breathes in, they push their stomach out. They push their diaphragm out so they draw a whole breath. All right. Take a whole breath and breathe and just try to feel air coming in and up and through and out. It's like you're a bagpipes or something. It's like you're a conduit, right? It's energy. It's not actually your breath. It's not actually air. It's energy, right? And you're going to have to learn to work with that. Now, you'll be able to feel it more and more and more dependent upon how open your mind is, how open you are to allowing that to occur, right? Any kind of interference you have, any kind of blockage or inability you have is always going to be because you're trying to examine it. All right. It's the conscious examination of your state that takes you out of it, because then you become the observer. You become the thing examining it rather than the experiencer. All right. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like anything. It's like everything. You're in a process of learning. Oh, I just have to do this. And I had a funny one with somebody the other day about letting go. And it's like they're trying to let go. It's like you can't try to let go. You just have to let go, right? It's like Yoda. It's do or don't do. There is no try, right? And for a lot of people, it's very difficult to let go of that idea of I can't or I'm not, because there's this element of trying to do something. You can't try to do it, just do it. You can't try to ride a bicycle down a hill, you just ride it down a hill. Right? It's the same with everything, absolutely everything in life. There is no try, there is only do or don't do. Okay, trying is sitting on the fence, and you have to realize it's always a conscious decision to sit on that fence. You're not a victim to yourself. You're not lacking in anything, you know, there's nothing missing in you that other people have and you don't have. It's always about a decision. I choose to do this. I choose to say yes to it. Sometimes you just got to get over yourself. It's like, I see, I'm trying, I'm hanging on, I'm trying to work out how it is that I let go. You can't work out how to let go. You just got to let go. There's no way to work out how to let go. Just let go. Right? If you're hanging over the edge of a cliff and you're hanging off a rope and there's water down below, it's like, it's a long way down. Or that fear of letting go is going to stop you from letting go. And people are going to be yelling at you, just let go, you'll be fine. Just let go, you'll be fine. Well, it's a long way down. You know how to let go already. You just don't want to. Right? That's what it comes down to. I just don't want to. Right? You may not like the sound of that, but it's true. I just don't want to. I had to face that one as well. I didn't want a miracle. I had to admit to myself I didn't actually want a miracle. I was asking in prayer and nothing was changing. And little Susie came up to me one day and said, "How come you got such a long face?" And I said, "Because I've been asking for help with a particular thing and nothing's changed. Nothing's happened." And she said, "Well, you haven't really been asking." And I was adamant. I'm like, "Yes, I have. I've been asking for a miracle." And she said, "You need a miracle to even want a miracle." Right? Self-deception is subtle. It's manipulative. It's vicious and suspicious and all of those sorts of things, right? Don't trust yourself. Learn to become completely dependent on God with everything. Father, even in my prayers, I need help, right? Even in my prayer, in my meditation, I need help. Before my feet hit the floor every morning, I need help to get out of bed. I need to be in that conscious recognition 24/7 that God goes with me everywhere I go. Even when I'm getting out of bed, God's there with me. Right? Because I am the divine presence. You are the divine presence. You're either realizing that or you're not. If you're not, any kind of crap's going to happen. If you are, amazing crap's going to happen. It's still going to be crap, but you'll look at it from yes, wow, and thank you. And I call it all crap. I call because that's what it is. I mean, the best thing here in the world is still lipstick on a skeleton. Right? It's all underpinned, underlined, underscored by death. It doesn't matter how nice it is, how beautiful it looks, and how wonderful it appears. It's still lipstick on a skeleton. This is the realm of death. This is the wheel of reincarnation. This is the dream, the Maya, the illusion. You know, and we're awakening from it together. Hey, Dana. You haven't carked it yet? You have my full permission to go off and die somewhere, you know, like it's all good.
Well, a friend came over out of nowhere, and luckily I just remembered.
Aha.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we're just about done anyway. We were just
I know. I just wanted
Yeah.
to get in for a second.
Thank you. Thank you for your divine presence. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So with that breathing, just spend a few minutes. If you're finding you're having trouble feeling that on your head, maybe it's not going to happen in the Zoom meeting, but some of you guys like Tanya and Simba, like I can tell you guys it's happening for you, right? There's this whole thing going on. Don't make too much out of it. It's just a very small thing, right? But the idea of that is energy, right? Essentially, you can call it light or whatever, but essentially we are beings of an energetic presence. We are beings of light. We are whatever. And you should be able to, with a little practice, to learn to move that energy around your body and to illuminate it and bring it to a point where it's so overwhelming that you experience that little moment of, like, it's in the blink of an eye, in the twinkling of an eye, right? The mind opens and something else occurs. We call that something else a miracle, because, like, you can't corrupt a miracle. The ego doesn't know what it is. If I told you that it was x over y equals p divided by 2, you'd corrupt that, you know? So we just say it's a miracle. How come it's not x over y divided by p divided by 7? You know, somebody told me that there's a chakra that activates my 12. And it's like, man, you can get caught up in all that stuff forever. Just keep it simple. I am. Right? I am. Live from that. Live from what it is that your truth is. You are spirit. You're not coming to spirit. You're not becoming spirit. You are that already. Live from it and you'll start to see it represented. I am the light of God. If I'm not that light, then who is? I better go find that other person and serve them for my whole life until I can become that. You're that already. Right? Just because you've covered yourself up with a load of heavy blankets and doubts and fears and whatever, doesn't mean that you're not that. Just means you got to unruffle yourself from all that stuff to actually realize and remember for yourself that you're that. Having it as a concept isn't much. In fact, it's nothing, because salvation is freedom from concepts. You got to walk the walk and talk the talk, and eventually what happens is your thoughts, your words, and your actions all line up together, and there's no deceit. There's no inconsistency between any of them, right? The deeper you dig, the harder you feel into that honest place in you, the quicker you're going to get through it. If you're just chipping away at that iceberg little tiny bit because you're afraid to confront your fear, that's fine too. But sometimes you're going to look at that iceberg and you go, God damn, this is going to take me forever. I better just get into it. You know, I really want to get to the bottom of this. That's why people go off and climb mountains and do pilgrimages and things like that, you know, so they can really put themselves into that brink, into that threshold, into that place where they've got no way out. They have to have faith, and it pushes you to a certain place in, you know. Hey, Simba, you have a question?
Yeah, so earlier, I don't know if you probably were joking, but you were like, "Oh, what are you gonna take care of the restaurant instead, whatever, right?" So my question is,
Take care of your restaurant. I wasn't joking.
wait, what? So my question is like, how does all of what we're talking about merge with like practical life, as in like, oh, I have to go to work, or oh, I have to do this, da 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 da, da, if that makes sense.
Ready?
Can you talk about that?
Ready?
Yeah,
I'll show you
yeah,
exactly how. I'll show you exactly how it merges. Ready? Like this.
yeah.
That's how. Ready?
What does that mean?
Ready? I'll do it again. Ready?
What?
That's how it merges.
But it didn't merge, right?
You missed it. I'll do it again. Ready? One more time. Ready? Everyone want to do this with me? Ready? Yeah. You think
What?
your restaurant is just a restaurant, right? Your
Ye-
restaurant is a portal. Your restaurant is a divine portal. It's a place for you to be of divine service. Everyone that walks through that door and sits down is your brother in Christ or your brother in Buddha or your brother in whatever. And that's how you should see them. You're lucky. You get like, how many tables and chairs you got there? You got 50 seats or 100 seats or something?
No, we just have 30 seats right now because
Right.
it's like
So
we just opened
let's
it.
say every night you have 30 divine opportunities walking through that door for you to be of service and to give the best, to give everything.
Yeah.
You know, we used to have an ice cream shop, and this will maybe Jesus used to talk in parables so people could understand because they were simple, farmers and whatever, right? So at the healing center, next door was this big development that was all falling down. Part of it was being demolished. It was called the epicenter. It used to be an old whaling station. We converted part of that slaughterhouse into a church. So it became from slaughterhouse to a house of holiness. But there were still a few other little buildings that weren't demolished, you know. And one of those buildings, we offered to do it up and turn it into an ice cream shop. It was right on the beach. Right, there was the ice cream shop, a road, and then the beach. And Ted, my teacher, he gave us this talk one day about how the ice cream shop was going to be. He knew that there was going to be people. He put people in charge of managing the ice cream shop because he knew they needed to let go and that managing them was going to confront what their idea of an ice cream shop was supposed to be. And he said to people, we're just going to give away the ice cream. Right? We're going to give it away for free. So we didn't give it away for free, right? So, but we gave in the cones, we had this massive ice creams and it would just like go everywhere. It was huge. You would pay like minimal amount of money. The shop barely covered costs. And people would walk away with these ice creams like, holy crap, this is the biggest ice cream I've ever had in my life. And like scoops on top of scoops for like a couple of dollars, right? It was a place where those who were afraid of giving could come to terms with the idea of what it meant to give by seeing how it was that it lit up the people and brought joy to the people, the children and the parents and whatever, when they couldn't believe that they were paying $2 and getting a $12 ice cream, right? So there was this whole element of give. So a restaurant is a beautiful place for that. And it's not about that you're going to give all your money away and suddenly go broke because you're giving food, but it's about recognizing that this is my portal to represent my divine gift, my divine offering, right? To everyone that comes. You know, what that looks like is going to be up to you. You got to feel it in your heart. If you're just there serving up food every night and it's just a job, forget it. You're already dead in the water, right? Have you ever seen that movie Chocolat, where the girl opens the chocolate shop and it's like, man, she like, I don't really remember the movie that well, but her give is in like every chocolate, every little tiny thing is sacred to her, and she puts all of her love into every little thing. So when somebody has the bite of that chocolate, she's given everything. It's energy. It's energy. It's not about the chocolate. The chocolate's just the catalyst for her give, right? Same with you with your restaurant. You know, I've been to restaurants and cafes where you just want to get up and walk out because the place is dead. Energetically, it's dead. It's got no energy, and you just bless it and you leave. You know, and then there's some places where you recognize that, man. Like I went for pizza last night, right? So I was sitting here with Dad, and I just suddenly got hungry. I thought I feel like a pizza. I went up to this little pizza place. The people were so friendly, like they were just so. They couldn't have given me more if I'd asked for more. Like they were just totally present, totally, how can we help you? Whatever. I'd never had a blue cheese pizza, right? So I ordered this blue cheese pizza with pine nuts and whatever. I'd never even heard of a blue cheese pizza. And it was delicious. It was the best thing ever. But you could tell it was one of their signature pizzas, and they put all their love into it. And when I left, they said, we know you're going to, the woman behind she said, we know you're going to really love this pizza. And I said, that's so cool. I said, this is my first pizza from you guys, and walked out. And we had this whole moment there where I was just totally joyous that they knew I was going to love the pizza. and I'm taking the pizza out, even if I didn't eat the pizza, even if I never tried the pizza. It was that moment. You know, it was that moment of just being in that shop, having that whole interaction, and I was totally filled up. I was totally joyous about it and happy. I could have just hung out in that shop all night and just smelt the pizza. You know, like it was beautiful, the energy. But you can walk into some restaurants and some places and you walk through the door and it's like, nah. You just get a vibe for it. You know, it's like, nah, this is not where I'm at. I don't want to eat here. You know, so it's like a restaurant is, I mean, your restaurant looks lovely, but the restaurant is not about the food. It's not even really about the service. It's about the heart space. It's about what it is that you're walking into and sitting down to as an idea of, I'm connecting with something here. Right? I'm connecting with something here. And if you're awake and aware of it, that will just automatically permeate through everything, through the meals, through the billing, through the buyers and suppliers. Everything in your restaurant business will fall into an alignment with your own process of healing your own mind. You know, and people will pick up on that. People will pick up on it and they'll be like, I don't know what it is about that restaurant. The food's okay, the service is good, whatever, but I just love going there. Right? I just love being there. I love being in that energy. Right? And it's not a, you know, oh, Sima, are you got your
Yes,
hand up?
thank you for everything. I have to
Oh,
leave and
okay.
would love to join again. Love you guys.
More than
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a beautiful day or night.
Bye, Seema. I'm gonna stop your Zoom thing, okay? She's gone.
Yeah. I think we're done anyway. I've got nothing. Anyone else got a question? Anything? I'm kind of.
Noodle has her hand up.
Oh, Noodle. Yep. Go for it.
I was wondering how can you like know the balance between staying in a situation because you like fear the act of leaving it versus like it being a difficult situation and leaving it is the easier option. Like
You
either one
already
to
know.
me feels like it's driven by fear.
Right. You already know the answer to that question. You're just not willing to be honest with yourself about it. Am I right? I'm right.
I don't know because I flip flop very regularly, but
Right. The fact that you flip-flop regularly should tell you. All right. You just said, how do I know the balance between staying in a relationship or leaving a relationship? This whole thing is about relationship. This whole thing is about healing relationship, right? Once your mind is healed about the relationship, there's nothing to flip-flop. Whether you stay or whether you go, it's the same thing, right? You can make the decision without guilt, without fear, without anything. You just kind of get guided and it's like, oh, I see, I have to go now, right? It's that easy. But that inconsistency, that inability to be honest with yourself about it in your own mind, where you flip-flop back and forth, that's what needs healing. I need to make a decision, right? I can't sit on the fence. I can't keep looking over that way and then looking over that way, right? And that's going to be me saying that to you until it's actually you saying that to you.
I have a history of like just kind of leaving difficult situations rather than processing them, which is why I keep flip-flopping.
Right,
Because I
right.
can't tell if my motivation to stop it is just because like that's a thing I don't want to process right now, or if it's like,
Right.
oh, this is actually unhealthy and I should like, exit.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to being human. That's what we all do. We flip-flop between things and we're not honest. We don't know, right? So ask within yourself, right? Use this as an exercise. Close your eyes, maybe not now, but maybe when you feel like it. Close your eyes and ask deeply within yourself, what do I do in this situation? Obviously, you want to heal whatever the fear is around it, because that'll just show up somewhere else if you don't, right? But then in the overall, you're going to find once you heal that fear, the relationship will change. The other person or situation will either leave or transform itself or whatever, but you'll be able to see that it's not the same anymore. Okay. But it's really individual and it's really personal, but you're learning to listen to the voice for your own spirit. You're learning to listen to the voice for the Holy Spirit in you. It doesn't do any good for me to be Dear Dorothy Dixon, give you advice particularly. I can only bring you back to the necessity for you to actually ask within yourself your own guidance, right? I mean, you mentioned fear, so like, let's do the work there. If you've got resistance to doing the work, well, I don't know, you'll just have to sit there until you don't have resistance. You got to be where's he gone? Willing to be willing. Oh, Simba, you know, you've got to, am I willing to be willing? Am I willing to heal from this? Right? That's where you start. The Holy Spirit works with your little willingness. Am I willing to give the Holy Spirit consent to step in here for me, perhaps? Right? Because I see that I can't do it by myself. I'm a flip-flopper.
I think that is a good answer to my questions. So thank you.
Right. Hey, it's a good one, though. It's a good one. Like you're actually active. You're looking at something that's affecting you right here and now, and you're getting to make decisions about it. That's the journey. It's like, oh, I see. I'm right in the thick of my own thing. Right? I'm right in the middle of my own process here. Now I get to choose. Which way do I want to go? Do I want to keep banging my head against the wall, or do I want something else to occur that has nothing to do with my own thinking? Right? Because we're learning to become miracle-minded. Do I want a miracle, or do I want to just more of my noodleness? And that's up to you. You know, you have an idea of free will and whatever. I can't tell you. You have to choose for yourself. And that's how you learn. You get the results of your own thinking by choosing for yourself. I can tell you what I think, but like, what the hell? Get stuffed, Dave. You know, like that. No good deed goes unpunished. If I tell you something and it backfires, you're going to blame me. Mm-hmm. All right, I think we're done. Simba, you got another question? Have you read a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran? It's like questions or the back of the workbook. Go for it.
No.
Last
So
one,
just
last
like,
one.
yeah, last one. So just to
Okay.
summarize it, practical life and spiritual life merge with love, right? So everything I do has to be like to the full peak of love, question mark. Does that
They're
make
already
sense?
merged. They're already merged. They're already one thing. The only
Okay.
reason you're asking that question is because you can't see they're already one thing. Right? Which means you got to forgive yourself for what that question represents to you. Let me let go of the question, which represents doubt and uncertainty and all of that sort of stuff, and let me see the whole thing from my certainty. I am that. Right? Stop trying to work it out and be that. You're already that. Right? You don't need a healing for that. You don't need forgiveness. I mean, you can apply it if you've got resistance, but you don't need forgiveness. So, Simba, you are the Christ. Take a breath. Ready? You are that already. Take a breath and be about your Father's business.
Yeah, when you say that, it's like, damn, like I feel it right here. I'm like,
It seems big, doesn't it? But
but
it's really just natural.
yeah, it's like it seems so out of the mind where it's like,
Right.
yeah, I don't know how to describe it. But yeah.
Good. Stay there. Let it be uncomfortable. Let it be unnatural for a second. Right? You are the Christ. You are my brother in Christ. We're all one already. There's nothing you have to work out. There's just the forgiveness of thinking there's something between us that needs to be worked out somehow. Let's forgive all of that and just party on.
Yo,
All right. We're all gonna come to your restaurant and we're all gonna leave a big tip.
yeah, you better. No, I'm just kidding.
Where is it?
It's in California, Modesto.
Oh, there you go. Tina's there. She's on her way.
Really? You should come
California
by.
girl.
Yup.
Coming.
Yeah, you should definitely come by.
I'll be there.
Expect a visit.
Trust and believe.
Anna will cross the country. She's heard about your food. She's on her way. We're all coming.
I'll be
We'll be there in
waiting. I'll be
spirit.
waiting. Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. Next Zoom, I think we'll do a bit more meditative stuff and sort of look at some of those deeper concepts. But it's like in this video, if your takeaway is yes, wow, and thank you, right? Staying open to the miracle, keeping your mind open to that possibility, the possibility of what it is your yes represents on a personal level as well as on a global level, all of that.
I think there's
Universal.
one more question. You got a second? Dana's got
Dana?
a question.
Yeah.
Hand up.
It's not really a question. Can you hear me?
Oh, uh-huh.
Okay. So, okay, I won't go into it, but if I haven't had anybody around, I haven't really talked to anybody, and a friend came over and brought me cookies. And it was really hard trying to have a normal conversation.
Right.
Is that normal?
Welcome to my world.
Oh, shit.
What is a normal conversation, really?
I mean, like, just like, I was like trying to be normal. Like,
Trying to eat as many cookies as possible so you don't have to
and I
talk
was just
about
like,
anything.
I'm like, I really didn't have anything to say, but I let her talk, but I just didn't feel like, so do I have to get used to this?
You're not used to it already? What the hell?
No.
You're not from here. It's not a normal place. Stop
Okay,
trying to
so
decide what normal
I
should
know,
look
I
like.
know, I am gullible though, so don't freak me out. I mean, is this part of the learning?
Yes.
Oh.
Everything is part of your learning.
Oh, God.
Ready? It's a universal curriculum. There's one
Everything.
situation or event where it doesn't entail you
Oh.
to let go and trust and be okay and be at peace.
Okay.
It's not just prayer and meditation. It's in the small stuff.
Oh.
It's the ants on the sidewalk. It's the wind in your hair. It's the people eating cookies. It's everything. You are the divine light of reality wherever you go. If you don't decide what you think that should look like, you'll be able to just be cool with it. Or not. You might have a moment with it and then you can be cool with it again, forgive yourself and move on.
Okay. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, thank you.
When's the last time you did something radical?
I don't know,
And I'll tell you something. So I have a friend that lives in Sweden, right? She's been doing Course in Miracles for a long time, and her and her brother came to me like 10 years ago. They were doing the workbook. I think I actually sent them the book, but anyway, they're doing the workbook, going through all sorts of stuff. The both of them throughout have been incredibly open through everything. And we don't talk that often anymore because they're like up and running and they're doing their own thing now. They're like, whatever it is, they've got it, and not long. And I'll see if I can upload this. It's incredible. But the other day, this is an idea, Tina, of yes, wow, thank you. All right. So the other day, I'm talking with Ellen online and we just like texting, not pictures. We're just texting. And she said, I'm sitting by this, it wasn't frozen, but it was like an Arctic lake, I guess, like in Sweden, it's freezing cold, like the water and the fjords and whatever, but that's how I imagine it. And she said, I'm sitting by the lake wondering what to do, something. She seemed to be at this kind of impasse or whatever. And I said, just strip off all your clothes and go for a swim in the lake. Knowing that would bring, and then all this stuff came up, like, oh, I can't do that. It's like -10, like whatever. The next thing you know, I get this little 30-second video clip. She set her camera up on a rock and she's taken off all her clothes and she's gone into the lake up to here. And she's in the water for like 10 seconds and she comes out and she's like, there you go. I did it, like, and the whole energy of like, what should I do? What was completely dispelled. Anytime you have one of those moments, it's always about, like you can't ask, what should I do? You're already doing it. You're doing what you're meant to be doing. There's only this moment, right? In this moment, it's always going to look perfect. Sometimes you just need to be shocked out of, shock therapy, where you're stuck in a mindset and you like, and they shock you out of that mentality. Or the same thing, like cold water, like anything. Someone can slap, Tarzan and Jane, where Jane goes into hysterics because she sees a snake, and she's in danger of herself because she's so hysterical, and Tarzan slaps her across the face. In that moment, it's perfect. It shocked her out of that thing. It took her out of that moment she was in and brought her back to presence. That's all that's ever going on. I'm either walking away from the light or I'm facing the light. I'm turning the wrong way or I'm facing the right way. So let me just accept that everything's always perfect. If something shows up, I need to make a decision about it. All right, I need to choose. Do I want to trust my guidance on this or not? No one can force you to trust your guidance. No one can force you to follow the voice for God within you. You got to be willing to be willing. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. I love you guys. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, everybody. Give it away. Give your love away and you'll see it. It comes back. Don't think you got nothing to give. You got a whole universe in there to give. Oh, look, I've got a little man going out of a door here. Leave the meeting.
Oh. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Tina. Bye, guys.
See my